What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Talk to Me here on NotFest.com. As always, I am Joshua Toomey, joined by the one and only Chris Aiken. Chris, how are we doing?
Oh, splendid.
Yeah, man, we are ringing in the new year with some somber tones, man.
Yeah, I mean, just people dropping dead and getting hurt, and wow, what are we on day 3? And on day
Right.
3, we've already had, what, 2 or 3 celebrities die, and a personal friend of mine and yours die, and we got the football guy that's hanging on to life. Wow, just not a great start.
Yeah, I don't want to dive too much into to Damar Hamlin, but I knew it was crazy. Last night I was recording an episode of Roach Coach with those guys, and my wife, who never watches football, is sending me text messages of like this hit. And I do show her like legs getting broken and stuff like that. It grosses her out, and she'll send me
Sure.
shit too. So it wasn't too out of the question for her to send me that. But then as I were recording, I saw the play happen, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" Like, and what's crazy is it doesn't look like anything, and then Damar stands up and just falls over. It's crazy how it all
Yeah.
kind of came together.
That's like I was telling you before we got started. I didn't see it live. I was doing my other show, and I got a text. I was like, "Oh, can you believe what's going on here?" And I looked at it, and yeah, I just thought it was a blowout of the game. I didn't have any
Right.
idea, and so I went and I turned on ESPN, and then it was just like Ryan Clark crying, and that Van Pelt guy just sticking the dagger in further and further. Do you think do you think players understand when a guy dies on the field? I mean, he was just like brutal with his commentary. And I was like, wow, what the hell happened? So then I went to Twitter and I found the play and I watched the play and I was like, Jesus, that doesn't look that bad. What happened here? Because it really, I mean, you saw the play earlier in the year when Tua went down, right?
Oh yeah.
Now I thought he was dead.
Right.
I really thought he was dead on the field. This did not look like that. This just looked like honestly, when he got up and fell down, it looked like he got his bell rung. Like maybe he, got hit on the head or something and was a little loopy because you see that kind of often, but wow. Then when he just collapsed, it was like, wow, that's a whole nother thing completely.
Yeah.
So, oof.
Yeah. T's and P's out to the Hamlin family.
Yeah, no kidding. Forget football. Hopefully he's all right.
Yeah. I guess someone found a GoFundMe that he had started. He was wanting $2,500 for a toy drive for
Right.
Christmas, and it's just now hit $5 million.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Well, that's encouraging to hear that people actually give a shit,
Yeah.
I mean, it's too bad that they didn't give a shit before the guy got nearly killed, but,
Right.
at least they do give a shit now, so good. That'll be good for some kids and, I guess he's gonna be okay. Is that what I haven't really not seen any news today. Is he?
Yeah.
I saw that they said that he was breathing, but they put him on like, what do they call that? That coma, like a
Yeah.
intentional coma to stabilize his breathing or something. So that's
Yeah.
good, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, as Tuesday as we record, there's been no real updates that if he's in or out of the hospital or whatnot. So Thursday, by the time this drops, we'll see.
Yeah.
But another longtime friend of ours, man, much longer time friend of yours, man, Bob Nalbandian passed away, and I guess you knew he wasn't in good health, but man,
Yeah.
I actually saw Chris Czynszak post about it. That was like the first I saw of Nalbandian passing, and man, that's a tough one.
Dude, it killed me. It absolutely rocked me to my core. I was thinking about it over the last few days, and it's like that is the closest friend I've ever had die.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have had a member or someone we know or a couple someones we know pass away, but that one shook me pretty hard. And yeah, I did know, Bob and I talked every week pretty much for years, not like just recently. I mean, he was obviously on the CMS all the time. We did a count. He did 34 appearances on the CMS
Wow,
that are
nice.
that are on YouTube, plus numerous times that I did skull sessions with him or that I hosted skull sessions for him when he was sick. And, so I mean, we were tight in that world, but we were just tight in general. And, yeah, man, I had just talked to him on, like the Wednesday before New Year's. So like 2 days before he passed, and he wasn't doing great. I mean, he's been doing chemo and stuff for this leukemia, or I keep saying leukemia, for this lymphoma that he had, and but he seemed like he's in good spirits. He was like, he was talking about that he was getting ready to try some new medication that they were hoping was going to work because it's some kind of rare form of lymphoma, but they were encouraged because his brother took it or something and got him through. I mean, it was like a whole thing and sounded encouraging. And then then I got the call Friday night from Matt Hartnett, and he just was like, dude, Bob's gone. And I was like, what do you mean gone? Where'd he go? I really was like, what the hell? And he told me, and I was just like, son of a bitch, man. And and brutal, sad, but I'll tell you what's encouraging, and it's one of the few times I'm not going to be angry asshole Chris Aiken, but it was encouraging the support that you saw across the board. Like, not too many assholes on Blabbermouth saying, fuck that guy, he sucked, and
Right.
and not it was big of Lars and it was big of Mustaine to actually, take a moment to recognize a guy that probably not a ton of people knew was as important to their career as he was. So I found all that to be encouraging. I know Matt and I we're getting ready we're going to record one last Skull Sessions, since Matt was kind of the co-host.
Yeah.
And we're going to do like a tribute show for Bob. And we've already talked to like Ellefson and Gene Hoglan and some of Bob's actual personal friends that we know. And we're going to do a nice send off here in a couple weeks for Bob. But yeah, big loss. Metal community. Forget me, forget personal. Big loss for the metal community. I mean, dude. I mean, this guy was constantly doing stuff for the metal community, whether it's his documentaries or just hooking people up with, making this connection to that connection, or, he was constantly evolving heavy metal. And it's a big, big, big loss, for one of the more unheralded background guys in the history of it.
It's funny. Yeah, talking about him being kind of a background character, because even until his passing and reading some of the stuff that he did, like, even though I spoke to him, through text and instant message and things like that, I didn't really know a lot about him. And it's funny to kind of see everything that he did, because he was never boisterous about the things that he did. And even he did an episode of Speak and Destroy, which is Ryan J. Downey's Metallica podcast. But Ryan only had him on because he did the what was the LA music scene, Bay Area.
Oh yeah, the Bay Area Godfathers, or
all that stuff, like all those movies. So he was having him on for that. And then it was funny, in the interview, he's like, oh yeah, I was at like Metallica's first show. And Ryan's like, what? Wait a minute. Like stop the whole show. Like, you need to tell me about this, and just kind of going through, like you said, Bori over at Blabbermouth had like every label he worked for and all the great stuff that he did. And even like, a little tidbit, like, Dave Mustaine posted, sad news today. My friend Bob Nalbandian, the metal legend who helped me find Marty Friedman, has passed away. We will miss you terribly, Bob. My sincere condolences to his family and friends. Like, I mean, that's a huge thing in metal, getting Marty Friedman, in Megadeth.
Well, and I've said this on a couple of shows now. Most metalheads that are not modern metalheads, that are longtime metalheads, you put Rust in Peace at a minimum in the top 5. A minimum, if not top 1 and 2. Most people argue between that and Master of Puppets as the greatest of all time. Well, who's on that? Marty Friedman. Right. So it's like now Bandian in some ways, gave us one of the best metal albums, or helped give us one of the best metal albums ever. And and hell, he was working with Marty Friedman before that with Cacophony. So who else did he know? He knew Jason Becker. Right. And if you watch his documentaries, you'll see that he's sitting with Jason Becker, and Becker took the time to blink out an interview piece for his documentary. And I know you think I'm being a dick by saying that, but it's just the truth. It's just the truth. That's what he did. He took the time. He would not take that time with other people. Jason Becker wouldn't, because, it's a lot of energy for him to do that. But because it was Bob, he took the time to spend, and I know for a fact he spent a couple of hours with Bob answering questions. That probably wore him out for 3 days.
Yeah.
But it was because Bob was Bob. And it really is a stud. The only ones I'm waiting to see something from is Armored Saint. I'm surprised that really there hasn't been an Armored Saint post, but they got to be putting something together, because from what I understand, Bob is a huge part of this documentary that they're getting ready to release. Like, Bob's in like more than half of it, and I know for a fact that Bob and John Bush owned a business called the Black Lodge, a club back in the day. So, John Bush has something to say about this. And I met John Bush through Bob. Bob was kind of my hookup that way. So, yeah, I mean, the guy was everywhere in metal, and just, he gave me the greatest honor I've had in doing this shit with, putting me in his movies.
Oh, yeah.
And putting me in his movies a lot, not like the casual one sentence thing. Bay Area Godfathers 2, I think I have 5 quotes. And I'm like, I had the same amount of quotes as Lars. I'm like, that's Lars, and here I am with the same amount. And it's, good dude. I'm going to miss him to death. I already do. It really, really, when you have somebody pass away like that, man, it's like, you almost want to text them or call them and say, hey, dude, this is bullshit, right?
Right.
And I've had that thought for days, where I just want to pick up the phone and call and just kill myself again, when he doesn't answer. But it's definitely a big loss. Definitely rocked me hard. I won't lie.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just awesome that like you said, Lars and Mustaine took the time. Lars said, Bob, thank you for your contributions to the hard rock and metal community for over 40 years. Your spirit, passion, and dedication to this music and everything it represents has been unparalleled and inspiring. Rest in peace, brother.
Yeah.
Picture of him and Bob together, man. I mean, that's just how much cooler can it get? I mean, obviously passing away is not awesome, but I mean, if Lars takes the time to, throw out a post, man, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever seen Lars throw out another post for anybody that passed away?
Few and far between,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's people
they're
like, probably famous.
Yeah, it's people like Taylor Hawkins and stuff,
Yeah, it's definitely not guy that 90% of the public doesn't know. That's for sure. But yeah, big loss, bigger loss than I think people understand, because they didn't realize how much Bob did behind the scenes for even this that we're doing now, these podcasts and video casts. The big 3 at the beginning of heavy metal podcasts was CMS, Talking Metal, and Skull Sessions.
Yeah.
Skull Sessions was probably bigger than both of the other 2 at the beginning, because it was tied in with Blabbermouth. I don't know if you even remember those days, but yeah, the early days of Skull Sessions, it was on Blabbermouth, back when Blabbermouth was on Roadrunners. Remember when it was roadrunner.com/Blabbermouth?
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Skull Sessions was the official podcast.
Here's some just trivia though. Like, it looks like he started at the age of 17. He started the Headbanger in April of '82. The term headbanger, how long had that even been around?
I mean, it could have come out of Bob's head for all I know, because
right.
I know that whole era of guys, there's like a collection of those guys that all sort of knew each other. There was Bob and John Stranansky and Bill Hale, the photographer, and Rob Quintana from KUSF. Yeah. There's a few of those guys that were all together. And I know the term thrash metal came from KUSF, from Rob Quintana. And it might have come from Bob as well, from those early zines that those guys were all doing. Because they were all, you had Bob doing Headbanger, and you had John Stranansky. He was doing a zine at the time called Metal Rendezvous that became a pretty big national or international publication. So yeah, all those guys, they were doing it back in like 79, 80, 81, on copy machines at the office with staplers and stuff. It's crazy how, and then it just became, it's crazy looking at it now, where, you know, you see a site like Blabbermouth or Knotfest or Metal Injection or whatever that gets 10 million hits a day.
Right.
And you remember that it started with these guys with a mimeograph machine stapling shit
Yeah.
and mailing it to Germany or wherever. It's just nuts.
The term headbanging is contested. The origin is. It is possible that the term headbanger was coined during Led Zeppelin's first U.S. tour in 1969 during
Oh,
a show
wow.
at the Boston Tea Party concert venue. Audience members in the first row were banging their heads against the stage in rhythm with the music.
Wow. All right. So maybe it wasn't Bob.
It might have been, but it still could have been Bob.
It could have, he'd have been about 2.
But yeah, I mean, just even when I started podcasting in like 2015, I mean, it was still new-ish, even though it had been around for a while. There wasn't a ton, and I said even then it was seemed like kind of like the new zine, like the just everybody kind of just a different take on the fanzine. And yeah, Bob starting this stuff in 82, man. There's no telling how much stuff he was going through to get the headbanger out each week.
Oh, it had to be. And I've talked to Bob about this stuff, and he used to tell me about, the biggest problem that they had was finding copy machines, because the early days were literally just copies that they made and they stapled together like 10 pages, and they'd throw a staple in the corner, fold it up, and mail it to, Johann in Germany or whoever had thrown them in a mailing address. And, those guys all worked really, really hard to promote it, and it just grew. And I mean, just think about if you didn't have that core of guys, the Stranansky and Bob Nalbandians and Quintanas, you may not have a Metallica, Slayer, Pantera, all of those Bay bands. All of those are largely responsible for, or they largely came from the work that those guys all did in the early days to spread the word. If they hadn't spread the word, then maybe Johnny Zazula doesn't get the information about Metallica and doesn't invite them out, doesn't realize it's a big thing, and doesn't sign Anthrax. I mean, you don't know. We'll never know for sure, but you certainly can, when you look at it like this, you can certainly see the impact at least.
Oh yeah. So crazy, man. Like, it's just, I don't know, man. Bob, you will be missed. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, same here, man. I mean, I've talked about it to 9,000 friends and
right.
2 segments on CMS, and we talked about it a good amount yesterday on Chris Aiken Presents as well. And I guess it's good to get it out so that it's out instead of just being all a weepy bitch for weeks. But yeah, it just sucks. It definitely sucks losing a close friend like that. So rest in peace, sir. I hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Man, I think it's time for our weekly segment of As the Pantera Turns.
Okay.
So let's see here. It looks like a couple of things kind of came out. I was actually like, I thought this story kind of died out, and then a couple of guitarists kind of came out saying that they turned it down and they pulled their name out of the running, and one was Mark Tremonti. So in a recent interview with Overdrive, Alter Bridge and Creed guitarist Mark Tremonti said that he spoke with Brown a number of years ago about Pantera's then hypothetical return, and Rex suggested that he put his name in the hat of potential guitarist to fill in the shoes of Dimebag. According to Tremonti, he responded to Brown's suggestion with an empathetic hell no.
Smart.
Explaining that you have to be a certain type of personality to take on that role.
Yeah, I was going to say that's exact. I certainly don't think that Mark couldn't do the playing. I mean, he's a greatly underrated player.
Oh, yeah.
He is a great player. But yeah, he's a little too clean cut and nice.
Yeah.
Can you see him on stage with Anselmo?
Oh, yeah.
I can't see that. I can't see that at all.
Especially not like rocking out. Like, I mean, that's the one thing I give, I give Zakk Wylde, that he's at least, banging his head and stuff.
Well, Zakk looks like he belongs
Yeah.
on that stage. I mean, I've seen Alter Bridge a bunch of times, and I've seen Tremonti play solo. He ain't that guy.
Yeah.
He's the guy that kind of finds his space on the stage and just rips. And I mean, he does rip, but he rips kind of standing still.
Yeah.
You know, he's not, he's not that guy. So I can't see it. I can't see the crowd liking, without the guitar player just going crazy on like Becoming or Walk or,
Right.
I can't see it.
It says, it goes on to say, blabbermouth.net has also heard rumors that Slayer guitarist Kerry King was approached to take part in the Slayer comeback, but this has never been publicly corroborated by anyone associated with Anselmo Brown and the Abbott brothers estates, respectively.
What would they be doing? Adding a second guitar player? Kerry
I don't
doesn't
think
play leads.
Well, he plays something.
But
He
he doesn't play leads on the level of I mean, he was always the second guitar player in Slayer.
Right.
It was always Hanneman, and then it was Gary Holt. Even when Hanneman died, it's not like Kerry King picked up the leads. They just got somebody else to play the leads.
Yeah. This is something actually you and I've talked about a lot. The Vinnie Paul estate, the breakdown is on this article.
Okay.
The Vinnie Paul estate left the bulk of his estate to his longtime girlfriend, Chelsea Yeager, and his best friend, Charles Jones. Charles got 38%, while Chelsea walked away with 37%. The rest was split between Vinny's tour manager, 10%, drum tech, 5%, producer, 5%, and a friend, 5%. In addition, Vinny gave his interest in Dimebag's estate to the guitarist's longtime girlfriend, Rita Haney.
So. And there was also one football helmet that was taken by one Josh Toomey.
And so Charles Jones got 38% of the football helmet, while Chelsea got 37% of the money of the football helmet. And Vinny's store manager got 10% of the money from the football helmet. But,
so you're breaking it down. I gave Chelsea $35. I gave this guy $34.
Let's see. Charles Jones at the end got about $120.
There you go.
Chelsea got about 118. But yeah. But this was actually corroborated by longtime Pantera producer Sterling Winfield, reportedly one of the people who control Pantera drummer Vinnie Paul's estate, which is down at the bottom. Let's see here. Trying to think here. We're trying to get
did I not see that Sterling said too that he's really not sold on the idea of them trying to do new music?
Yeah, I think he said that he's not into new music. Yeah, but he's all for this reunion, not necessarily in on the new music.
Do you think he would produce it anyway?
Oof, I don't know. But you would almost think you would have to.
If he did, I mean, he did all the good Pantera stuff.
Right.
I mean, that would be weird if he didn't.
Yeah, I'm still reading about the guitar player here. Yeah, I mean, he just basically goes on to say that yes, there were other guitarists looked at, but Benante was probably the surefire pick for drums.
Not Benante. Oh, for drums, yeah.
For drums, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and Zakk was the surefire pick for guitar. Let's be honest. Who else? I mean, let's name anybody. Who else is really going to fit that role? There's nobody else.
Right. Well, speaking of that,
there's great players, but I mean, who?
Yeah.
Who could actually step in and do that? Honestly, it'd have to be. I think Dave Mustaine.
I don't even know if Mustaine would do it. Like, not put it all on him. I think Zakk understands the assignment. Kind of go in and do the job. Where I think Dave Mustaine would probably try to hoard the spotlight.
Dave would want him to be doing some Megadeth covers in between.
That'd be kind of cool, though.
It would be.
Like since Dime and Vinny wouldn't join Megadeth, he would join Pantera. Like that's a twist on the whole story too.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea.
Yeah. In a recent interview with T Stone of the radio show Sonic Boom on Real Rock 100.3 The Fox in Rapid City, South Dakota.
Judas Priest, the biggest station known to man, apparently. Wow.
That's a good one. If you're in Rapid City, South Dakota, you listen to 100.3 The Fox.
The Fox.
ow, or whatever. Judas Priest Richie Faulkner was asked what he thinks about Zakk Wylde stepping in for Dimebag Darrell. He said, I think there's only one guy that could have done that gig, and he's the right guy for it. He's the only guy for it. So
I agree with Richie on that one.
yeah. We talked about this earlier. I think I looked it up. I'm 6 months older than Richie Faulkner.
Really?
Isn't that crazy?
Well, let's hope you don't have a double heart attack like he did last year. Jeez.
Well, if he did, I mean, it was here in Louisville, so maybe I could get his same doctors that patched him up.
Yeah, or maybe they're not available because they're still working on him. Let's not take that risk.
me and Bob Nalbandian getting tributized. Just tell
Let's not
Lars
do
to
that.
say something nice about me. But yeah, let's move on to Devin Townsend says brilliant Chad Kroeger is much more of a metalhead than he is.
All right. Ease up. Ease up, Devin. I'm a total, I don't know if you're a fan of him or not. I loved Strapping Young Lad.
Yeah.
The Strapping Young Lad stuff, especially the album City, just phenomenal. You know, I mean, I'm a big fan of him. And I had the privilege of interviewing him during the pandemic. You know, it was really nice to chat. I hadn't talked to him. I had not talked to him literally in 20 years. I had interviewed him back in the Strapping Young Lad days, and then I got to interview him during the pandemic with that, whatever the record was that he put out, which was so memorable that I don't even remember. But
Empath, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, whatever. The last one. But he's talking out his ass a little bit here. I mean, just stop. I'm not even going to try and say that Chad Kroeger's not a metalhead. I'll be honest, I like some Nickelback stuff. I really do. I think they're grossly beat up for no reason. They're the whipping boy for they're basically the modern winger. You know, they're just beat up for no reason at all other than making songs that are both rocking and catchy. You know, but just stop trying to say wild things that are going to get you in the news. He only says that because it gets him in the news. He's not saying, he's not believing that. Do you really think that the guy that wrote "Oh My Fucking God" is thinking that, man, that Nickelback guy, that's my metal brethren right there? No, he's just being wacky.
Let's see here. In a recent interview with Ultimate Guitar, Townsend was asked what it was like to collaborate with Chad Kroeger on Empath, primarily on the song "Hear Me." Hey Chad, what was it like? That's always a great question.
Yeah, great. Oh, it was terrible. It was the worst.
Chad said, he said, Chad's brilliant. Chad is a phenomenally intelligent human being, but he's a rock star too on levels that you and I will never participate in. And so there's going to be a disconnect just based on that. You only have a few things in common, and then after a while, you run out of things to talk about. I think it's flattering for me at first too, but again, the guy's got a very complex life, and I can't understand all of it. I mean, how could I? It's not within the realm of my world, but I think he's exceptionally talented. I think he's phenomenally intelligent. And I think there's a certain degree of intensity to his life that I just can't hang with, man. It's too much for me.
Wow.
It goes on and on.
Wow. That's a lot of heaping praise. Somebody definitely wants to get on a Nickelback record.
Well, Chad was on the last
Devin record, but yeah, it would do Devin a whole lot more business if he was getting some royalty checks from a platinum selling Nickelback record.
Townsend previously talked about his collaboration with Chad Kroeger in 2019 in an interview with the Talk to Me podcast.
Oh, look at that.
At the time, Townsend said about Kroeger's involvement on Empath, in the chorus, he sings the harmony, but really his contribution to the record was one that can't be understated for me for a number of reasons, primarily because here's a guy who has had a phenomenal success doing a type of music and being in a band that is clearly divisive. There's a lot of people that hate that band and hate him, but I think I'm fortunate in the sense that although I was very critical of the band for years, if there's something that someone doesn't like and I like it, I don't have much to lose at this point for saying like, I like this. Like, I like that Five Finger Death Punch album, and I
Yeah.
was told it isn't cool.
Well,
So
Five Fingers, another one of those bands.
yeah,
They get beat up for no other reason than they're popular.
yeah, they're definitely. I think they get beat on a lot for just for no apparent reason. I'm not necessarily the hugest fan of Five Finger. Obviously, I've been around that camp a lot, but it's like I get why people love them. I mean, they have a
Yeah.
devoted fan base.
Well, they write catchy songs. They write
Yeah.
catchy, cool songs. They sound cool, but they're super popular. It's the same reason. How many people is Metallica the biggest band in the world? And there's so many haters of Metallica, it's not even funny. Why? Because they're successful and their girlfriends know the same songs that they do, which makes them not want to like their songs anymore.
Right.
That's really what it is.
I will say, man, I've never been a giant like Devin Townsend fan. But I interviewed him obviously in 2019.
Sure.
One of my favorite interviews I've ever done. Like I got off that call and I was just like, man, what a cool dude.
Oh yeah, he's great. He's definitely great. And no, you never were into I'm surprised you weren't into Strapping Young Lad. That was right at the time that you were way into metal too.
Yeah, like I'm not now. But no,
Well,
I got
you know what I mean? I mean,
yeah.
you were like a part of that scene.
They were like Canadian Fear Factory to me or something. They were
Yeah.
I had some it might have just been like the friends that liked them I didn't like. So it's kind of like one of those I associated that with something else. I do need to dive back into that stuff because I mean obviously Gene Hoglan's been on the show a million times too, and he's always in that camp and all that good stuff too.
Yeah. I mean, those records are dude, City and the self-titled and what's the other one? New Black.
Mhm.
Those are some fucking great records, man. Especially City. City is just like your assessment is dead on. It's Canadian Fear Factory, but it was right at the same
Right.
time. It was like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
1997 or 8 or somewhere, right at the same time that we were getting Edge Crusher and stuff from Fear Factory, like their best period. I know what it was with you. You didn't like the Skullet. That's
It's
what
funny
it was.
if you that was my last like question with him because we were talking.
Did you ask him about the Skullet?
Well, I had dreadlocks, like for a long, like 4 years back in the day, and I had this like big elaborate thing about when you cut them off because Lenny Kravitz said he had this big spiel about when he cut his dreads off, it released all this energy and all this other stuff. So I brought that story up to him. I was like, "Did you feel anything like that?" And he had a pretty funny answer to that. Obviously he played with it,
Right?
so he took it in a fun direction, I guess.
Right. Yeah. But that was a weird look from him. I will give you that. He looked odd. It was definitely hard to support Strapping Young Lad when that was the picture out in front was guy that looked like he was like 90 years old and had the skullet. I was like, what is that? But the music kills. Music absolutely kills.
System of a Down's John Dolmayan. I don't think I've ever said his last name out loud. I guess he's been kind of popping up a little bit lately, so I guess he's been talking about a few different things with on the Great Battle Line podcast.
The Battle Line.
Yeah, huge supporters of those guys. Says that Serg Tankian hasn't really wanted to be in the band for a long time, and quite frankly, we should have parted ways around 2006. We tried to get together multiple times to make an album, but there were certain rules set in place that made it difficult to do so and maintain the integrity of what System of a Down stood for. So we couldn't really come together and agree. And part of that is Serg's fault, and part of that is my fault, and Chavo and Darren's as well. So everybody's at fault. But at the end of the day, if you have a majority of the band thinking one way and one person thinking the other, it's very difficult to come together and make music thinking that person is important. And every member of this band is very important to the overall sound of the band. And you'll know this by listening to anybody's side projects. They're never quite that good compared to System. In fact, I think a lot of them aren't very good at all.
Oh, wow.
I haven't read this before. This is awesome. And when you compare that to what we did together as System, you understand why the team matters and certain talents come together and merge, matter, and that magic thing captured doing that matters. So,
All right, well, he's not wrong that the side projects all pretty much blow.
yeah.
He's 100. I can't believe he acknowledged that, but that's that's a truth. But the real truth is not acknowledged here, which is they cannot replace Serg. There's
Yeah.
no possible way if he's not in the band, then it is not System of a Down. Every other player in that band could be replaced, and people would accept it anyway as System of a Down.
Yeah. I was there's another story out there of where John says that they should have replaced Serg, and I was like, you can't replace Serg.
You can't replace it. Look, I'm not even a fan. I know you're a big fan. I'm not really a fan of that band, but I know enough about that band to know that if you don't have that you don't have that guy. I mean, who are you gonna replace him with? Eminem?
Yeah.
I mean, that's about the only guy that you're gonna be able to get that makes that kind of noise.
Asked to elaborate on his comment that System of a Down should have parted ways around 2006, John said, I think we should have moved on, and if Serg didn't want to be in the band at the time, we should have just moved on and done it with somebody else. But that's what happens when you're loyal and you really want to make it work. You'll put up with things that may be detrimental to the health of the band or the health of the situation. Maybe it would have been better if we moved on and got another singer for an album or two and continued to make music and brought Serg back later if he wanted to come back. That probably would have been better. But as it is, I think we wasted 15, maybe 20 years of our lives waiting.
Well, so basically he looked at Rage Against the Machine and thinks that he should have formed his own Audio Slave.
Yeah.
That's basically what he's saying. And then hopefully Serg would come running back, like what's his name? Zakk De La Rocha from Rage. I don't know. Different band though. And let's be honest, a band like Audio Slave got lucky. I think they got lucky that they stumbled into Chris Cornell.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously they probably knew each other and whatever, but Cornell just sort of fit. I mean, I don't think there's not a lot of examples of that happening. In fact, I think they're the only one, aren't they, that just kind of dumped the whole band, or the whole band dumped the singer and moved on to another guy with a new name.
Yeah. And actually had success. Cause I mean, I think that even like Prophets of Rage and all that stuff, like none of that stuff worked.
Yeah, none of that worked at all. But Audio Slave was super popular for a minute, for 5 years or so. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The only other example, and it's not a name change, but it would be like Van Halen with Sammy Hagar.
Right.
They changed sound, changed name, changed vocalists, and kept making number one hits.
Oh, what a mess. What a mess.
Yeah. Do you think that this is going on because like they're trying to put pressure on Serg to get off his ass and do something? Because there's been a lot of especially Johnny D here talking in the last, I'll say 6 months. Do you think that they're just and again, they're not a band that I follow, so I don't remember for sure, but I think, weren't they scheduled to do a bunch of stuff right before the pandemic hit? Like
they had
tours with Faith No More or something, or some big shows or something.
Yeah, it was like System and Korn and Helmet and Faith No More. And I don't think it was a long tour though. I think it was a bunch of just like big, but it was like big dates, like soccer stadium type stuff in the States, 20, 30,000 seaters.
Right. Which would mean making some money.
Yeah.
And hopefully out of that, you come off with a 4 to 8 song EP and make some more money and go out and tour, as yourself behind it. Maybe. It just seems to me like this guy is like, he's not making any money as a musician. I mean, could System have made enough money to support you for more than 20 years?
I mean, maybe they did. I don't know. Like, I feel like, I mean, it's crazy. Like even that, whatchamacallit, what's the Sick New World, festival. I mean, they're the headliner over Korn and Deftones and Incubus, and all those bands that are kind of a little bit more, Korn and Incubus, a little bit more radio staples and things like that. But System is kind of the get here because they don't tour
because
a lot.
They've not been around a lot. Yeah. I don't know.
This is another good quote here. According to John, several of the System members would prefer to be a lot more active on the live circuit, but quote, I think we would like to be working a lot more, but Serg also has a bad back now. He's messed up his back somehow, he said, and he just doesn't want to tour as much as the rest of us do. He says, look, if my wife told me that we were going to have sex just once a year, I'd be divorced. So you figure that out for what it is.
Wow.
Actually, I think I might go back and listen to this interview now.
Yeah, it sounds like the Battle Zone is a pretty good place for an interview.
Yeah. Man, yeah, Battle Line podcast. Let's go.
Battle Line.
Oh man. But yeah, I love System of a Down. I hope to see them this year. Hopefully, I hope to go to Sick New World, all that good stuff. So
look you in your travels and to the many shows that you're going to this year.
I'm going to all the shows this year.
All of them. Yeah, I'm even venturing out to a few. I'm going to some end of this month.
What do you got?
I'm obviously going to the Pantera show with Metallica as the closer, I guess we'll call it. But
right.
I'm going to see Queensryche here in April. I'm going to see Dave Landau here in the end of the month. You know, I'm getting out. I mean, for me, the homebody of homebodies, I'm actually gonna venture out to the downtown areas and see some shit.
Speaking of seeing shows, I actually went to another comedy show. Let's see, who did I go see? It was one of those things where it's like, hey, since you bought tickets to Jason Mewes, pick a show to come go to.
Okay.
But
so you didn't even know who the comics were?
Well, my wife did, because it was Steve Renazizi. He was on the show The League. But his claim to fame, which I didn't know until after the show, was, I guess I had heard this story about a comedian making up a big elaborate story about being in the World Trade Center, like when it got hit. And then he had to come out because where he said that he worked, that place didn't have an office in the World Trade Center. And like, it was just like all these like facts of the story just kept coming out. And finally he had to admit that it was just made up, which is a really fucked up thing to just lie about.
And it's this guy?
Yeah.
Oh. Does he at least work it into his act now?
He actually just said like a little bit about like living in New York, but he didn't say anything about that being in his act or you know, that wasn't a part of his story. But it was funny going back and looking at the Facebook post from the comedy club, like, hey, check out, you know, Steve Renazizi on what you call it, on New Year's Eve. And someone posted someone posted I'm not going, but I'm going to tell everybody I was there. And I was just like, I didn't get it at the time. And then I was like, now I got it.
That's funny.
But actually, dude, he was a great comedian. Like he was, cool. You know, killed the room. But this goes on to my football retardness or whatever. Like just, it was Thursday night and we had already got tickets to the show. And Titans played Thursday night football, but it was like we had the backup quarterback in and we were resting players. So I was like, I'm not even going to worry about it. We'll just go to the show or whatever.
Right.
Close to the show time, I'm like, I'm just going to put a headphone in and listen to the game. So like half of his set, I actually had the Titans game in my ear, but I was still like, it was still good. I was turning it down during, you know, commercial breaks and stuff like that. But I mean, that's just, I'm just a football degenerate, man. I can't not watch and not pay attention.
Huh? You missed a good game.
It was good. I mean, like I think I talked to you a little bit later. We got out at about halftime, and then we went to a sports bar nearby and watched the rest of the game. But yeah, he was great. The comedian that went on before him, like Josh Fireside, I believe his name was. I actually got his name. He was really good until like halfway through the set, and like he was wearing some clothes that kind of, you know, he looked like a bigger dude, but he didn't look like morbidly obese kind of thing.
Okay.
But he started making this joke about this crappy like stomach tattoo that he had that just said American on it. And I was like, all right, yeah, that's funny. And then he lifts his shirt up and he was wearing like some pants that were too tight. Like he was just like his gut was hanging over. And I was like, I don't want to see this.
Yeah,
and then but then he kept doing it. I'm like, put your fucking shirt down. Like half of his act was making fun of his stupid American tattoo that he got when he was like 19. I was like, all right, we get it. You know, you're making
You're
fun
fat.
of yourself.
We got it.
Move on, because the rest of his act was really good. But
right.
Yeah, so we ventured out to some comedy,
cool.
man.
Nothing wrong with that. That's always fun.
Yeah, and again, we ate like pigs, so not on the first date once again.
Right.
But yeah, so when are you seeing Landau?
20 whatever, the Friday, 20 whatever, and then we're gonna go have lunch on the Saturday, which will be cool. So
nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna go hang out, spend a weekend with Dave Landau.
I think every time you see Landau, don't you go away like dead? Like you got COVID one time and you broke your leg like one time.
Yeah, I did. I fell down the steps the one time that it's at this fucking venue too.
Yeah.
It has these steep ass steps, and I'm a klutz anyway, and I just took one step, went boom, boom, all the way down. No, I did not get COVID though at his show. I got COVID at Comedians of the Compound, the Anthony Cumia show.
Right.
But I do have a nice history of getting sick or hurt at comedy shows for some reason. So, let's hope that I don't keep that record going. Let's hope that this is the break from that.
Yeah. And then Brian Posehn's going to be there like on the 12th, the weekend of the 12th. So I think we're going to go down for that one too.
Dude, he's fucking funny.
Yeah.
It's
really actually good. I saw him years ago, like when Louisville actually had an improv for a while. And he was there at that. And we saw him then. And then when Melissa and I were in San Francisco, we went and saw he did that in-store at Amoeba with Scott Ian for his record that he put out. We went to that. I've seen him a few times, man. He's really funny.
He's funny. I enjoy him a lot. I even enjoyed him on Big Bang Theory. As much as he played a total goober character, he was really good on that. He's funny.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's great. Love him to death, man. I've been trying to, I actually thought about this the other day. I actually corresponded with him on MySpace back in the day.
Oh, wow.
like him and like Ralphie May. I'm trying to think of a couple of comedians that like I actually had, a little bit of a rapport with back then. But
you got to get one of them on here.
I've reached out to Brian Posehn like through his contact a few times, but nothing. I get nothing back. So either
Don Jameson, he likes to talk about metal.
Yeah, Don's been on the show a few times.
Oh.
He's good. He's a good nice good
guy.
interview to have on. Yeah, super nice guy. And super nice in person. I met him. He was at Rockin' Pod a couple of years ago. So,
dude, he called me out the worst call out ever in person at Rock on the Range.
Okay.
I run into him and he's like, I introduced myself and he's like, "Hey, how are you, man?" And we're talking. And he's like, "So are we gonna do a live episode of Is Don Jameson Funny?" Which is a bit that we used to do on the CMS. I was like, "Oh no." I was like, "Oh no, I'm being called out right face to face."
Nice.
But he just laughed it off. He's like, I know some of it's not for everybody, and he don't care.
It's kind of how you got to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're a comedian. If everybody bombs as a comedian, that's part of the game sometimes.
All right, one last story, and then we'll do some recommendations to get out of here.
Okay.
Man. But Arch Enemies Alissa White-Gluz opens up about her relationship with Misfits Doyle Wolfgang von Frankenstein.
I don't want to hear this. I don't want to know. I just don't want to know that's who's tooling her. I don't want to know that. I just want to think that she's waiting for me.
She might be.
I wish.
During a recent appearance on the In the Trenches with Ryan Roxy podcast, Arch Enemy singer Alissa White-Gluz spoke about the challenges of maintaining a strong relationship with her longtime boyfriend, Misfits guitarist Doyle Wolfgang von Frankenstein.
And here's the answer. Both of you look like you never come out of the gym. And that keeps you both well attracted to each other because they both look amazingly fit.
So you wouldn't kick Doyle out of bed for eating crackers is what you're saying?
I'd lick right up those fucking six packs. I'd be all in there.
It says, I wouldn't say I'm qualified to be a relationship coach by any means, but I think a lot of it comes down to just having your goals aligned. The people in the relationship have to have their goals aligned, and we definitely do.
Okay. That's fabulous. I wish I didn't know that she was dating that guy. And nothing against him. He's a nice enough guy, but man,
Yeah.
he just looks like a ghoul. And it's like, you know, and I'm sure they don't, you know, when they're watching TV at night when they are home together, I'm sure he's not dressed up with the white face paint and the hair down into his face, but you know, it's like,
he's a weird dude, man. Have you ever interviewed him?
I have once,
Yeah,
long time ago, but
yeah,
he's a bit. I did like you're saying here. I did not like connect with him on a conversation. It was very okay. Next question. You know,
Yeah. I don't know any podcaster that's had a good interview with Doyle. Like everybody always kind of goes away. Like even Chuck Shute, who seems like a pretty, you know, kind of like you were talking about Scott Bowling earlier, like prior to us talking, you were saying you know, you never really hear him say anything bad about anybody. But Chuck Shute went on this, like before the interview, like his pre-interview talk was just like, Doyle's the most disrespectful person I've ever met in my life, and he's never welcome back on the show, and blah blah blah. And if you want to sit through this bullshit interview, here you go. Here's the interview.
Really?
Like,
wow.
Yeah, it's
Chuck
bad.
Shute.
Yeah,
Chuck's the most mild-mannered of all of us.
And I guess he goes through his interviews on YouTube and, you know, bookmarks things for everybody.
Okay.
And it's like, and it's shit like, you know, when he starts his bullshit, when he does it, you know, all this, like it's all just I just laughing my ass off about
That's
it.
funny.
But I had an in-person interview with Doyle, like one of my few I did in person, and I had to wait for him to get into full Doyle regalia.
Oh yeah.
Before I could get on there. Like they had one of those sprinter buses. I get on and he's still like kind of taping his fingers up or whatever, but he's already got the white, you know, paint on and the devil lot going and already got his, you know, muscles all out and shit. And I had like, I think Baco had interviewed him previous to that. So it was kind of like what you did with Mushak. He's like, you know, make sure you have a ton of questions and make them, and you can't have them yes and no because he will give you yes and no.
Right.
So I had like a you know, a pad full of questions,
and all of them started with "How do you?"
What's it like? No, so I, you know, looking back on the interview, it's not that bad, but it's like 9 minutes long.
Right.
It's like one of those, like just boom, 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 and it's
got to be something with those Misfits guys.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've ever interviewed Danzig, but he's the same way. Yeah. He's a very difficult interview. And Michael Graves, I interviewed him twice, and both times he was difficult. You know, not difficult in like a dickish way, but just was, you know, looking at, it's almost like he was calculating what's the least number of words I can say for this answer. You know, you ask Graves, you know, how did you assemble this band? I met everybody at a store. Okay, then, you know. You know, it's like, wow.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Doyle, who is 58, and Alissa is only 37. So,
wow.
And you've been doing those shakes and stuff. So maybe by the time you're 58, you'll be ripped.
Yeah, maybe. But then she won't look like she does now. So, yeah.
So I'm assuming, you like Alissa, and then I'm assuming you also liked Doyle's previous marriage was with former pro wrestler Gorgeous George.
Oh yeah, Gorgeous George. He was married to her.
Yeah, Stephanie Bellers, aka Gorgeous George.
Yeah, she was also dating the Macho Man for a little while.
Okay,
she was his valet late in his career when he was in WCW.
Did she have some issues or so? I remember watching a documentary on Macho Man, and I don't think she fared too well towards the end there.
No, she had like porn videos out there and stuff. Like she was a mess. She's a mess, but hot as could be. But you know, she definitely was hot. But oof. she epitomized the term hot mess.
Right.
She was a hot mess.
Well, man, as we wrap up here, man, have you been listening to anything, watching anything, you know, anything going on?
There's not a ton of music really right now. I did check out the new Catatonia release, and let me pull up the name of it real quick because it's not even out yet. Like you, my inbox was quite full today of
dude,
of
like it's been so quiet over the holiday, and then
yeah.
literally like every other email I got today was just, hey, check out the new this, check out the new
Mhm.
that, So yeah.
Yeah. So I checked out the new Catatonia, which is pretty good. Sky
Okay.
Void of Stars. It's out January the 23rd. If you like Catatonia, if you like that kind of dreary metal thing,
Okay.
it fits. It fits, although it's way more energetic than I remember them being. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not like some Catatonia fan that sits on the edge of my seat waiting for the next record. So they may have been moving toward this over the last few years. But I like this. It's called Sky Void of Stars, Catatonia. It's gonna be out on January 20th on Napalm. And then as
Nice.
far as something to watch, I don't have a movie or a show per se, but I have an actual channel that I discovered for people that if you want something and it's completely free, I am a big, gigantic fan of the Trailer Park Boys.
Okay.
And, I love that show. I cannot watch it enough times over and over. Well, they have an app that you can buy, and then they do a video podcast once a week. It's like a paid podcast. And it's really funny and it's really fun, and you need the visual. They put it out for free on I think it's called Park After Dark. And you can get it free on like Google Podcasts or Spotify or whatever. But the video, you need the video most of the time because it's them doing goofy shit. And so out of the blue, I was goofing around on Plex, for anybody that has Plex. I installed the Plex, and they have a live TV setting, and one of the channels is the Trailer Park Boys setting, and it's with all these shows that you would pay to get. It's like all the content that's on behind the paywall of the Trailer Park Boys app. So if you're into Trailer Park Boys, but you didn't want to spend the $30 or whatever it is a year for the app, you can go to Plex and watch the Trailer Park Boys channel, and you can watch all those videos, and it's really, really pretty fun.
I'll definitely check that. That's one of those too. I've watched a few episodes and I'm like into it, and then I don't really go much further with it. But yeah, it seems to be pretty funny every time I watch it.
Oh, and since we're doing
Okay.
recommendations, one more that I just thought of. New
Okay.
season of Letterkenny, outstanding.
Nice.
On Hulu. It's on Hulu. It's everything you expect from Letterkenny. What's her name? Michelle Milet looks incredible as always. And the just the speech pattern humor is hilarious. So new season of Letterkenny, watched it in like 4 hours because it's only like 7 episodes, but was 4 hours well spent.
Nice. The only thing I really have been listening to lately is I think it's actually something you did a while back, but it's like that deep dive into like Typo Negative.
Oh yeah,
because like I was into first few albums, but they're
sure.
one of those bands I was like, holy shit, they were active until like 2010 or something like that. So like there's like an entire kind of decade of albums I didn't really listen to.
Right.
So today I was really taking a deep dive into kind of that forgotten era of Typo Negative. I was just like, man, what's such a great band.
Yeah, it's crazy. After October Rust, I don't think anybody, as great as that record was, and everybody loved that record. All my friends loved that record. I don't know
Yeah.
anybody that loved them after.
Right.
And I like you, man. I went and found it later, and I'm just like, wow, this is some great music. So I'm with you on that. Even the last album, you would think the very last album they would do would be kind of garbage because most bands is.
Right.
No, that's a killer record.
Yeah. Yeah, I was listening to that today, and like it's kind of up tempo and like kind of almost like hardcore-ish or something.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, Typo Negative, I see
Yeah.
you.
It was a little closer to the what was the band he was in before? Carnivore.
Carnivore, yeah.
It was a little closer to Carnivore than they had ever let Typo Negative venture toward. But yeah, I love those guys. Another guy, Peter Steele, died way too early.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I luckily got to see those guys a bunch back in the day, like at small clubs, and like it was like the Pantera Typo Negative show
Sure.
at the auditorium, and then I saw them. It was like Typo Negative and Life of Agony a couple of times. And, I wish I would have went to the Karabi Motley Crue with Typo opening at the amphitheater. That would have been cool, but I did not go to that.
That was good. I went to that too. That was good. They were good. They were
Yeah.
killer, man. I love Typo, and I did I not see that they're talking about doing some sort of celebration of Typo? Like,
We had kind of talked about that. But I think
yeah,
it was more of a. I wouldn't mind doing a celebration, but they would never call it typo negative.
yeah, I'm okay with that. I'd be okay.
Yeah.
I would see it. I would go
Yeah.
see it because the songs are cool. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Well, I think that will do it for another episode of Talk to Me here on
Yeah.
notfest.com.
We gave them enough, goddammit.
Quick and easy.
That's right.
But hopefully by the time this episode comes out, you know, my Titans will play on Saturday night and hopefully either make it to the playoffs or have a top 10 draft pick. There's no in between. It's pretty
Well, at least
insane.
so that's a win-win.
I know, right? Like,
That's win-win for you. Dude,
yeah.
my team could have gone 0-16 and we don't get a top draft pick. So it's
No. But you got Deshaun Watson, so
thank God.
actually I watched a little bit of your game the other day. He actually didn't look too bad. Maybe
He's
getting
coming.
back
Right?
in
He's
form?
shaking the
Yeah.
rut. I know I said this to you. I don't remember if it was on this or off
think it was
this
off.
or whatever. But
Yeah.
you know, I really didn't care. I knew they weren't going to the playoffs anyway. And I was like, look, just give him snaps, let him shake the rust off this year, and he'll be in top form next year. Get him a receiver, get him Juju Smith-Schuster or somebody, anybody,
Yeah.
you know, and he'll be good next year. I'm not worried about this year at all. Who cares? He's not worth a draft pick. You know, we're not getting a draft pick either way. So whatever. Let him shake the rust off and suck this year. And next year we'll be in the Super Bowl, baby.
Hell yeah. Well, awesome, guys. Well, make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing, all that good stuff. And if you want to reach out to the show, at Talk to Me Talk on Twitter, at Talk to Me Talk on Facebook. You want to hit me up on an email, it is talktometalk@gmail.com. And so for the Talk to Me podcast here at notfest.com, I've been Joshua Toomey.
I'm still Chris Hagan.
And we will talk to you soon.
See ya.